In the heart of the city of Jerusalem, where ancient stones guard the memories of centuries, something extraordinary happened. It was a day like any other. The sun shone brightly in the sky, and the streets were filled with people, each going about their own lives. But on that day, the seemingly ordinary blue sky suddenly became the stage for a miracle that would never be forgotten. It all began with a soft sound, almost like the fluttering of a dove's wings, but it soon grew into a heavenly melody that captured everyone's attention. People stopped where they were, lifting their eyes to the sky in search of the source of that enchanting sound. And then, amidst the clouds, a breathtaking vision began to take shape. First, an intense light, brighter than the sun itself, yet soft and welcoming, started to appear. The clouds parted like curtains, revealing a majestic figure. It was Jesus, dressed in pure white, with arms open as if embracing the entire city in a gesture of love and peace. His face was radiant, full of a serenity that touched the hearts of all who saw him. Beside him, a towering angel with wings that shone like polished gold emerged. This angel was enveloped in a golden light and held a silver trumpet, as if ready to announce something grand. His eyes were like living flames, conveying a strength and power that left everyone silent, filled with reverence. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The bustling noise of the streets ceased, and all that could be heard was the gentle breeze and that celestial melody still lingering in the air. The people, who had been concerned with their daily routines, were now completely absorbed by the vision before them. It was as if heaven had descended to earth, bringing with it a glimpse of paradise. Jesus, with his calm and deep voice, began to speak. It wasn't just a voice heard with the ears, but one that echoed within each person, touching their souls. He spoke of love, forgiveness, and hope. His words were simple but carried a transformative power, as if each one was a seed planted in the hearts of those present. The angel, standing beside Jesus, raised the trumpet and, with a clear and pure sound, proclaimed a divine message. The trumpet sounded like a call, awakening in people the awareness of something greater, something beyond what their eyes could see and their ears could hear. It was as if this vision was a reminder that, despite all the difficulties and challenges of life, there was something greater, something divine, guiding and protecting humanity. People fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces, not out of sadness but out of deep, indescribable joy. It was as if all the weight of the world had been lifted from their shoulders, replaced by peace and an unshakable certainty that they were not alone. After what seemed like an eternity, but was at the same time just a moment, the vision began to fade. The light gradually disappeared, and the clouds closed again, hiding that glorious scene from mortal eyes. But the mark of that moment was forever etched in the hearts of all who witnessed it. The news spread quickly throughout Jerusalem and soon across the world. People shared their experiences, describing how they felt the presence of God so intensely that their lives would never be the same. It was not just a story to be told, but a truth that had been lived and that would continue to transform lives over time. This miracle was confirmed by many, each recounting what they saw and felt. The city of Jerusalem, already so rich in history, now had another sacred chapter, a living testimony to the power and presence of God among men. And so, the story of that day became a legend, proof that heaven and earth are not as far apart as many think, and that, from time to time, in moments of grace, the divine reveals itself in ways that leave the world in silence, awestruck by the power of heavenly love. After the celestial vision that took over Jerusalem, the city was never the same. The people, once immersed in their daily routines, were now profoundly transformed. The news of what they had witnessed spread not only among the locals but also among visitors and pilgrims who were in the city. In a short time, the story traveled throughout Judea and beyond, reaching distant lands and awakening the curiosity and faith of many. Groups of people gathered in squares, homes, and even temples, discussing what they had seen and felt. Some reported that, upon looking at Jesus in the sky, they felt as if their pains and worries were instantly relieved. Others claimed that the words they heard echoed in their minds, leading them to reflect on their own lives and the direction they were taking. There were those who, deeply moved by the vision, decided to completely change their ways, seeking a life of greater purpose and devotion. The religious leaders of the city, initially skeptical, could not ignore the impact that the appearance had on the population. Many of them also reported feeling something inexplicable, as if a deep peace had invaded their hearts. Although they could not deny what had happened, there was a debate among them about the meaning of the event. Some believed it was a clear sign of God's presence and the fulfillment of ancient prophecies, while others still struggled to understand what it meant for the future of the people of Israel. However, for those who had witnessed the vision, there was no doubt. They knew they had experienced something divine, something that transcended any human understanding. And this certainty motivated them to share their experience with others, not just as a tale of something miraculous, but as a message of hope and renewal. The city of Jerusalem, which had already been the stage for so many historical and religious events, now had a new story to tell. People from all parts began to arrive in the city, hoping to feel a bit of what the locals had experienced. The city, which had always been a sacred place, became even more revered. But the impact of that miracle was not limited to the city or the Jewish people. As the story spread, it also reached the Gentiles, those who were not part of the Jewish community. Many were drawn by the simplicity and depth of Jesus' message and began to seek the God who had revealed himself so clearly that day. The miracle united people from different backgrounds, cultures, and beliefs, creating a sense of brotherhood and unity around that divine experience. Among those who heard the account were the Roman leaders who ruled the region at the time. Although many of them were skeptical and even hostile to the Jewish faith, they could not ignore the impact the event had on the population. Reports reached Rome, where the powerful and the learned began to discuss the implications of that miracle. Some saw it as a sign that the gods were concerned with human affairs, while others saw it as a threat to the established order. Despite all the attention and debate, for the simple inhabitants of Jerusalem, the miracle was a gift. They knew they had been blessed with a vision of heaven, a confirmation that God was with them, even in the most difficult moments. The vision of Jesus and the angel in the sky was a reminder that divine love was never far away but always present, ready to manifest in surprising ways. The days, weeks, and months that followed were marked by a spirit of renewal and hope. People began to treat each other with more kindness, to help one another, and to seek to live according to the teachings of Jesus. The city, once divided by conflicts and differences, began to experience a new era of peace and unity. And so, the miracle in Jerusalem became a living legend, passed down from generation to generation. Parents told the story to their children, and they to theirs, ensuring that the memory of that day was never forgotten. For many, it was the beginning of a new era of faith, where the divine and the human met in a way so clear and powerful that it forever transformed the history of Jerusalem and the world. As the years passed, the impact of that extraordinary event in Jerusalem continued to reverberate not only in the city, but also in the surrounding lands. Those who had witnessed the appearance of Jesus and the angel in the sky became living witnesses of the miracle, and their stories were fervently passed on wherever they went. Among those most influenced were the apostles of Jesus, who had walked by his side during his ministry on earth. For them, the heavenly vision was not only a confirmation of what they already knew in their hearts, but also a renewed call to spread the message of Jesus. Feeling the weight of the mission entrusted to them, they dispersed even further, taking the story of the miracle and the good news of the gospel to ever more distant lands. In Antioch, Alexandria, Rome, and other major centers of the ancient world, the story of the appearance of Jesus in the sky became a starting point for many sermons and teachings. The early Christians, strengthened by this visible sign of divine favor, united even more in their faith, facing adversity and persecution with courage. They knew that just as Jesus had appeared in the sky over Jerusalem, he was also always present with them, guiding and strengthening them. But the story did not remain only among Christians. Throughout the Roman Empire, people of all classes and beliefs began to hear about the miracle. The account reached the palaces of governors, the homes of nobles, and even the discussion halls of philosophers. Many wondered about the meaning of that event and whether it had any implications for their own lives and beliefs. Some, moved by curiosity or the search for spiritual answers, began to approach the Christians, wanting to understand more about this Jesus who had been seen in the sky. In the city of Jerusalem, the effects of the miracle were felt even more intensely. The temple, already the spiritual heart of the city, became a place of renewed fervor. People gathered not only to fulfill traditional rituals but also to pray and seek a deeper connection with God. The feeling that something great was coming permeated the air, and many anxiously awaited the next move of God in their lives. Among the scholars and scribes, there was a resurgence of interest in the ancient scriptures. Prophecies that had once been seen as mysterious began to be reinterpreted in light of what had happened. The vision of Jesus in the sky was seen by many as the fulfillment of ancient promises, proof that God was active and present in the history of his people. However, not everyone received the miracle with the same enthusiasm. For some religious and political leaders, the event represented a threat to the established order. The idea that a man, crucified years earlier as a criminal, could be seen in the sky beside an angel challenged their beliefs and put their authority at risk. These leaders began to plan ways to discredit the account, spreading doubt and skepticism among the people. But no matter how hard they tried, the intensity and sincerity of the witnesses were difficult to contest. Over time, the account of the heavenly appearance of Jesus and the angel began to intertwine with other stories and traditions, forming the basis of a faith that would continue to grow and spread throughout the world. The miracle in Jerusalem was a catalyst, a turning point in history that helped shape the future of the Christian faith and strengthen the commitment of its followers. For those who had lived that moment, the miracle was not just an isolated event but a constant reminder of the proximity of God and his care for humanity. They continued to tell the story at every opportunity, wishing that everyone could feel the same peace and hope they had experienced. And so, the legend of the miracle in Jerusalem not only endured but grew, crossing centuries and taking root deeply in the collective consciousness of humanity. Even today, many still turn to that story for inspiration and strength, remembering that on an ordinary day, under a sky over Jerusalem, the divine revealed itself in a way so clear and powerful that it forever transformed the lives of those who witnessed it. The miracle in Jerusalem became more than a historical event. It became an eternal symbol of faith, hope, and the certainty that even in the darkest moments, the love and light of God are always present, guiding and protecting those who trust in Him. As the story of the miracle in Jerusalem spread, it crossed borders and touched the hearts of people, deeply affecting those who heard it. The account took on a life of its own, being told and retold in humble homes and majestic palaces, in synagogues, churches, and eventually even in pagan settings where people, even without fully understanding, were drawn to the spiritual power of this narrative. In the villages and towns around Jerusalem, the celestial appearance of Jesus and the angel began to inspire a new wave of conversion. People who may have heard of Jesus before but had not committed to His message now felt compelled to seek more. Many sought out the disciples and those who had known Jesus personally, wanting to learn more about His teachings and how they could follow in His footsteps. One of the most notable effects of this miracle was the change in the lives of ordinary people. Those who had been eyewitnesses to the heavenly vision began to live differently. Men and women, once occupied with worldly concerns, now dedicated more time to prayer, the study of the Scriptures, and service to others. There was a new spiritual energy in the city, a kind of renewal that touched all spheres of life. The Christian communities, still young and facing many difficulties, were greatly strengthened. The vision of Jesus in the sky was seen as a divine confirmation of their faith and a guarantee that even in the midst of persecution, God was with them. This event served as a point of unity, where the different factions within the early church could come together around a common and powerful experience. Over time, the story of the miracle began to inspire the creation of songs, hymns, and prayers that captured the beauty and majesty of what had happened. Poets and writers of the time tried, with their words, to convey the greatness of the event and the depth of its message. These compositions became part of Christian worship, passing down the memory of that unforgettable day from generation to generation. In lands beyond Jerusalem, the account reached the ears of kings and rulers. Some of them, curious or moved by faith, sent emissaries to Jerusalem, seeking to confirm what they had heard and perhaps understand what it meant for their own kingdoms. For many, the miracle was seen as an omen of future changes, a sign that the world was on the brink of a new spiritual era. Even among those who did not immediately convert to Christianity, the event in Jerusalem planted seeds of questioning and reflection. Philosophers and thinkers of the time began to debate the implications of that miracle, wondering if it was not a sign that there was more to the world than the eyes could see, more beyond established beliefs and traditions. The years passed, and the generation that had witnessed the celestial appearance began to age. But they did not let the story be lost. Parents and grandparents fervently told it to their children and grandchildren, ensuring that the memory of that day remained alive. They knew they were passing on more than just an account, they were passing on a testimony of faith, a reminder that the divine is not just a distant idea but a reality that can manifest in a tangible and powerful way. As the story became incorporated into Christian tradition, it also began to be reinterpreted in light of future events. The vision of Jesus in the sky was seen as a foreshadowing of His second coming, a harbinger of the day when He would return to establish His kingdom of peace and justice on earth. This filled the hearts of the faithful with hope and expectation, keeping the flame of faith alive even in times of trial. Subsequent generations, though distant in time from that miraculous event, felt deeply connected to it. Churches were built in Jerusalem and elsewhere in honor of that day, and the place where many believed the vision occurred became a pilgrimage destination. People from all over the world traveled to see with their own eyes the place where heaven touched earth so visibly and impressively. The miracle in Jerusalem, over the centuries, became more than a historical memory. It became an eternal symbol of God's presence among men, proof that even in the midst of darkness and difficulties, divine love shines with a light that nothing can extinguish. The vision of Jesus and the angel in the sky served as a beacon for all generations, pointing the way to a life of faith, hope, and love. And so, the story continues to be told, a perennial testimony to the power of the miracle and the certainty that the divine is always near, ready to reveal itself to those who seek with sincerity and faith. In the heart of every person who heard this account, the miracle in Jerusalem lives on, inspiring new generations to follow in the footsteps of Jesus and to joyfully await the day when all mysteries will be revealed and heaven and earth will unite in perfect harmony. As the generations passed, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem continued to influence and shape the faith of millions around the world. The memories of those who witnessed the heavenly appearance of Jesus and the angel became a spiritual treasure, carefully preserved in sacred texts, sermons, and oral traditions. But beyond words, the impact of that day manifested in actions, in transformed lives, and in the way Christian communities lived and interacted with the world around them. The city of Jerusalem, already revered as the center of the Jewish faith, also became a central symbol for Christians, a place where the divine had manifested so clearly and powerfully. The stories of pilgrims who traveled great distances to walk the streets where Jesus was seen in the sky became common. They came seeking blessings, a deeper connection with God, and perhaps even a vision of their own, a personal confirmation of the faith they had embraced. Over time, churches and shrines began to emerge in Jerusalem, erected to honor the site of the miracle and to serve as places of worship and reflection. These buildings became spiritual landmarks, meeting places for Christians of different backgrounds who wished to celebrate the unity of the faith that the miracle had symbolized. The walls of these churches echoed with hymns of praise and fervent prayers as congregations remembered the celestial vision that had forever changed the history of the city and the world. Beyond Jerusalem, other cities and towns where the news of the miracle spread began to experience a spiritual revival. Christian communities grew in number and fervor, and the message of love, hope, and salvation of Jesus was embraced by many who had previously lived in the darkness of ignorance or despair. The vision of heaven open over Jerusalem was not just a distant memory but a continuous source of inspiration, fueling the faith of Christians in times of doubt and tribulation. Over the centuries, the miracle in Jerusalem also became a reference point in Christian theology. Scholars and theologians saw in it a confirmation of Jesus' teachings about the kingdom of God, a sign that heaven and earth were not separate but connected by a spiritual reality that transcends the physical world. They interpreted the event as a promise of what was to come, the full revelation of God and the redemption of creation. In times of crisis, when Christians' faith was tested by persecutions, wars, and natural disasters, the memory of that day in Jerusalem provided comfort and strength. The words of Jesus, spoken at that celestial moment, echoed in the hearts of the faithful, reminding them that no matter how difficult life might become, God's love remained constant, and His plan of salvation was always in motion. The story of the miracle also had a profound impact on Christian art and culture. Painters, sculptors, and poets were inspired by the vision of Jesus and the angel in the sky, creating works that sought to capture the glory and majesty of that moment. Frescoes and mosaics adorned churches, depicting the celestial scene with rich and symbolic details, allowing those who were not present at that time to also experience, in some way, the wonder of the miracle. These artistic representations not only beautified places of worship but also served as teaching tools, helping to transmit the message of the gospel to future generations. The children who grew up around these images learned from an early age about God's love and the constant presence of the divine in their lives, shaping their understanding of the world and their purpose in it. As the Christian church expanded to new lands and cultures, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem accompanied missionaries and preachers. In every new place, this narrative helped build bridges between different traditions and beliefs, showing that Jesus' message was universal, intended for all nations and peoples. The vision of heaven open over Jerusalem became a symbol of hope not only for Christians but for all humanity, a reminder that the divine can manifest anywhere and at any time. Over time, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem became a spiritual treasure for the global church, a milestone that transcended cultures and continents. In times of celebration and in times of mourning, the celestial vision was remembered as a promise that God's love would always prevail. And so, the miracle continued to be told, a living testimony to God's power and His continuous presence among us. In today's world, as we face new challenges and uncertainties, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem remains as relevant as ever. It reminds us that even when the path seems difficult and the future uncertain, there is a greater power that guides us, a light that never goes out. The miracle invites us to lift our eyes to heaven, to trust in God, and to live with faith and courage, knowing that He is always with us, ready to reveal Himself in surprising and transformative ways. And so, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem continues to be told and celebrated, not as a relic of the past, but as a living source of inspiration for the present and the future. It is a testimony to God's goodness, a reminder of His constant presence, and a promise that, in the end, His love will triumph over all things. As the centuries progressed, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem became an integral part of the Christian faith, fueling the hope and conviction of millions around the world. Over time, church leaders recognized the importance of preserving not only the account of the miracle but also the sites and objects associated with it. In this way, the city of Jerusalem solidified its place as a center of pilgrimage, attracting believers from all corners of the world. During the Renaissance, with the flourishing of arts and sciences, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem inspired some of the grandest works of Christian art. Painters like Raphael and Michelangelo created depictions that captured not only the majesty of the event, but also its profound spirituality. These artists sought to express the glory of the open heaven, portraying Jesus and the angel with a luminosity and splendor that spoke directly to the hearts of all who saw these works. In churches and cathedrals, these depictions were seen as more than just art. They were windows to the divine, invitations to meditation and prayer. Believers of all ages, as they contemplated these images, felt transported to that extraordinary moment when heaven opened, and the spiritual reality manifested in such a clear and powerful way. As Christianity spread to the New World and to even more distant regions, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem traveled with missionaries and colonizers. New churches were erected in territories where Christianity was still establishing itself, and in many of these churches, the vision of Jesus and the angel was depicted in murals, stained glass, and sculptures. These works helped cement faith in the new Christian communities, reminding the newly converted that they too were under the protection and love of the same God who revealed Himself in Jerusalem. During the period of the Reformation and Counter-Reformation, the miracle in Jerusalem continued to be a story told in all Christian denominations, though with different emphases and interpretations. For many, the story represented the continuity and unity of the Christian faith, an unbreakable bond that transcended divisions and controversies. Even in times of religious tension, the account of the miracle was a point of convergence, a reminder that the essence of faith remained untouched. In modern times, with the emergence of new forms of communication, the story of the miracle in Jerusalem found new ways to be transmitted. Books, films, and radio and television programs began to explore the event, presenting it to new audiences and helping to preserve its relevance. Especially in moments of global crisis, such as during the World Wars, the miracle in Jerusalem was often invoked as a symbol of hope and that, despite the chaos, God was present and in control. With the advent of the digital age, the story of the miracle reached an even larger audience. Today, through the internet, people from all over the world can access accounts, theological discussions, and artistic representations of the miracle in seconds. Bible study groups, blogs, and videos dedicated to analyzing the miracle help keep the story alive and relevant, connecting the millennia-old tradition with new generations. In contemporary times, the celestial vision that occurred in Jerusalem is more than a legend. It is a continuous source of inspiration. Many religious leaders continue to use this story to encourage their followers to seek a life of faith and to believe that just as heaven opened in Jerusalem, it can open anywhere, in any heart willing to receive the divine presence. The story of the miracle in Jerusalem remains a powerful testimony to the Christian faith, a reminder that the divine is always accessible, always near, ready to reveal itself in ways that challenge human understanding but transform lives profoundly and enduringly. As the world changes around us, the essence of this story remains, a beacon that continues to guide and illuminate those who seek God. And so, the story will continue to be told, inspiring, comforting, and renewing the faith of future generations, as it has done throughout the centuries. The miracle in Jerusalem is and always will be an eternal symbol of God's loving and powerful presence in the world, a testimony that heaven and earth are inexorably connected through divine love. As we conclude this journey through the history of the miracle in Jerusalem, we are reminded that the power of the divine manifests in ways that defy our understanding but always draw us closer to a greater love. The miracle that occurred under the sky of Jerusalem so many centuries ago is not just an event recorded in ancient texts. It is a living source of inspiration and hope that continues to resonate in hearts around the world. The vision of Jesus and the angel in the sky not only transformed the lives of those who witnessed it but also shaped the faith and spirituality of generations. It invites us to look beyond what is visible, to perceive the presence of the sacred in our daily lives, and to live with the certainty that, even amid the greatest adversities, God's love is always with us. This story, rich in meaning and spiritual power, transcends time, guiding us, inspiring us, and reminding us that heaven is not as distant as we might imagine. Each time we revisit the miracle in Jerusalem, we are invited to renew our faith, to seek a deeper connection with the divine, and to spread the message of love, peace, and hope that it carries. So, as we continue our journey in life, may we carry with us the light of this miracle, letting it illuminate our path and inspire our actions. May the memory of that extraordinary day in Jerusalem strengthen us in our faith and remind us that the divine is always present, ready to reveal itself in our journey. And may the story of the miracle in Jerusalem remain alive in our hearts, guiding us with the promise that God's love never fails and that, at every moment of our lives, heaven can open to show us the way.